The next method that we are going to put on our binary search tree is called depth-first traversal. So we will write bst.prototype.depth-first traversal equals a function. And as a parameter, this method is going to take in a function itself, which we will call iterator_func. Now, you might not be familiar with this idea of passing one function into another function, but that is okay. You will soon realize that it is actually not that difficult of a concept to get a handle on. And this iterator function can be any function that we want it to be, because we will be defining this function a little bit later on. For the purposes of this course, our iterator function will be simply a function that logs nodes out to the console, just to keep it simple for this video. But we will get to that iterator function in a little bit. Okay, so what will our depth-first traversal function do? Well, our depth-first traversal function will travel through all of the nodes in our binary search tree, every single one of them, and it will run our iterator function on each of those nodes. This method will start traversing the tree at the top and follow every branch down to its bottom before it moves on to the next branch. Hence, the depth-first part of depth-first traversal. Let's quickly look at our animation of how depth-first traversal will work. As you can see, with this method, we will be following every branch all the way down to the bottom and running our iterator function on every node all the way down to the bottom before we move on to our next branch. Now, there are a couple of different versions of the depth-first traversal method that we will be creating, and the way that they differ is what order they touch each node of our tree in. In this lesson, we will work on the in-order version of depth-first traversal. It is called in order because we will touch all of the nodes in our tree in order from least to greatest. So that means we will first run our iterator function on the left child of our tree, then on the parent node of the tree, and then on the right child node of the tree. And we will recursively do this on all of the subtrees in our binary search tree. By doing this recursively, we will end up touching every node in our tree in order from least to greatest. This is the most widely used version of the depth-first traversal method in practice because we touch every node in order from least to greatest. So let's write out this method, and honestly, it is going to be pretty straightforward and not a lot of code. So we know that somewhere in our method, we are going to want to run our iterator function on the value of the current node. So let's write that out. We will say iterator_func and invoke it with this .value passed into it. Now, it might feel a little weird to invoke a parameter passed into our method like this, but remember, this is going to end up being a function that we will define later. It's not just a string or a number. So, since it will be a function, we can invoke it just like any other function. Okay. Now what? So we are invoking our iterator_func on this node, but we are supposed to be doing this in order. So we know that we want to run our iterator function on the left child first. So we could say iterator_func on this .left .value right up here, and then we would run it on the parent node. And then we could run it on the right node by invoking the iterator_func on this .right .value down here. But this isn't what we want to do. If we did this, we would only touch the top 3 nodes in our tree, which isn't correct. We want to touch every single node in our tree. So to do that, we will recursively call our depth-first traversal function on the left node and the right child node of this tree. So we will take away these 2 lines, and we will say, if there is a left child, or this dot left, run our depth-first traversal method on that child node. And we write that by saying this dot left dot depth-first traversal. And of course, we have to remember to pass our iterator func in here as well. Then below this, we do the same thing for the right child. We say, if there is a this dot right, do this dot right dot depth first traversal with our iterator function passed in. Great, and that is our in-order depth-first traversal method. By the way that we set it up recursively here, it will touch on all of the nodes in our tree in order from least to greatest by running our iterator function first on the left child, then on the parent node, then on the right child of all of our subtrees. This is recursion being used at its finest, and you can really see how powerful recursion can be just from this depth-first traversal method. It is impressive how much work can be done with just these 3 lines of code. This recursion allows us to follow every single branch of our tree all the way down to the bottom. Okay, let's make sure our depth-first traversal method works as we expect it to by testing it in the next video.